All right, thank you all for joining us today on this workshop on building a standout resume. This is one of the many workshops that we are offering Nova Systemic in partnership with Nova's Information and Engineering Technology Division, as well as other partners at Nova, such as Nova's Workforce Division. We'll be offering a series of career activities and workshops and events to help you as you try and build your professional development skills and get career ready. Can you hear me, Tiffany?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, it just asked me to unmute and I'm like, I'm not muted. If you could monitor the waiting room and the chat. And so if participants have questions at any time or comments or things that they want to share, Tiffany will be monitoring the chat and referring those questions back to me, or you can answer if it's something that you feel like you're comfortable with answering. But we're gonna go ahead and jump right in. Let me get my mouse together. So for those of you who I haven't had a chance to meet, I'm Brittany Hollis. I work at Nova in the Information and Engineering Technologies Division, or IET, as the career coach. Before COVID, I was located on the Annandale campus, but we are actually relocating our office to the Woodbridge campus when we actually are able to go back into the office. So that's where you can find me on at normal times. But if you ever need to reach me or contact me, my email is here, and this presentation will be shared after the session, so you'll have the contact information. Also on the call, we have Tiffany Rozier, who is with Nova Systemic. She is the STEM education coordinator on the Woodbridge campus, and we work closely on a lot of the career activities and events that we have been offering. So the goals of this session are to provide a roadmap for building a clear, concise resume, demonstrate best practices for formatting and writing a standout resume, as well as to encourage participant engagement through questions, discussions, and participant sharing of resume best practices and helpful tips for building a standout resume. So we want you all to definitely type in the chat, share your experience. We'll have some questions that we're gonna ask to the group, post to the group, and we want you all to share your experiences and your insight, because we're all here to learn. So with that being said, starting off, type in the chat, I want you to think about these two questions. When was the last time you updated your resume, and what are some common issues that you have when you're trying to update or write your resume? So we'll take a few minutes to type those things in the chat. So maybe when was the last time you updated your resume? And what are some common issues that you have when trying to update or write your resume? And hopefully we can address some of those common issues as we move along. We have a teacher in here. Yay! I was a teacher before I became a career coach, so happy to see you in here. So someone said the issue my students run into is writing a resume with no work experience. So I'm definitely going to touch on that towards the end of the presentation. Making sure it is relevant to the job I am applying for. And another teacher, yay, hi Jacqueline. Someone said the last time they updated their resume was 2019. So pretty recent, not that long ago. I updated my resume last month, but my issue is fleshing it out because I'm no longer in high school. Okay, so when you say fleshing it out, do you mean like formatting it or deciding what is important to include? What is important to include? Okay, so we'll talk about that as well. All right, so hopefully I can answer some of your questions and maybe address some of your concerns as it relates to updating your resume as we move throughout the workshop. But of course, if at any time you have questions, like I said, please just type them in the chat, and then we'll also have some dedicated time at the end of the session for asking and answering questions. So, before we even get into the specifics of layouts and what's important to include and how to talk about your experience, I think with anything that we do, we have to have a plan. We have to have some sort of strategy that we're using to approach writing our resume. So I like to think of this as a roadmap. I really like to use graphics and things to kind of illustrate concepts. And so the first part of that roadmap is to kind of do some self-assessment and some self-reflection. Think about what type of jobs you are trying to get, what industry you want to work in. Think about, even when you're writing your resume, who's going to be on the other side of it reading it? Who is your target audience? Because that impacts how you write and format your resume. Think about what skills are necessary for the types of positions that you are going for. Then the next thing is, like I said, think about what are the required skills that are common for these positions. And one way to really get an idea of the skills that are necessary for the positions that you are going for. Let's say that you are just in general looking in a specific field. The best way to do that is to study job descriptions. So I always advise students to gather maybe 3 to 5 job descriptions that kind of align with the vision of what that next job or that first job looks like for you. And these are not, you don't have to commit. These are just ideas to help you get kind of a sense of the common phrases, the common skills, terms that frequently come up in these job descriptions for these certain types of positions, and do some comparing and contrasting for those 3 to 5 job descriptions, so you can pull out those keywords, you can pull out those common phrases that come up consistently. Again, you are not in any way committing to applying for these positions unless you want to, but it's just to kind of help you get an idea of what these positions in this specific industry are looking for. The next is to reflect. Again, it's always good to do some reflection. So you want to reflect again about what makes you special. Think about why should the hiring manager hire you? That's a question that you get often in interviews. They often like to end an interview with, why should we hire you? Well, the same is true when you're writing your resume. Think about what makes you special, what makes you stand out. As you look through your skills and you start to make note of the skills needed for the types of jobs that you're interested in. So you may look at a job description and you may see that it's asking for someone to be proficient in written communication. And you might say, well, I have that. I'm a good writer. I'm great at writing. I have that skill. Well, so are hundreds of other people. There are lots of people who are great writers. You have to ask yourself, so what? What is that quality that's going to make me stand out? The thing that's going to make me special and make recruiters or hiring managers want to talk to me. So think about what value you are bringing to the table and how you can convey that on your resume. And then what are some of your biggest accomplishments? So think about, what are the things that you are most proud of? Your resume just isn't like a regurgitation of all of the jobs that you've ever had in your life. It's a snapshot of your accomplishments, and recruiters want to know what you have done, what you have added, or what value you have added to companies. Maybe, or if you haven't had a job yet, what have you done in your classes and in your academic coursework? So think about your value proposition statement and what that's going to look like. And then lastly is putting it all together. And this is where the formatting comes into play. And we're going to talk about what formatting looks like as we move forward. So this is just a basic overview of kind of what a layout could look like for a resume. And I have two versions. So I have a general version that could be used by anyone just based on wherever you are in your career. So it starts with your personal information and then goes all the way down to your special sections. And then I also have a version for career switchers and recent grads because that is going to be a little bit different. Your resume is going to look a little bit different because your experience is going to be a little bit different. So please note that these section titles, you can change them to really whatever you want. The section titles matter less than what you're actually saying in each section. So for instance, if you want to call your professional experience section work experience, or if you want to call it relevant experience, that's fine. Those are all personal preferences. That matters a lot less than what you are actually saying, the meat of those sections. So your resume typically starts off with your personal information, and that's your name, your contact information. And this contact information, you want to make sure that it's professional. You don't want to have babygirl99 as your email address. You want it to be something that is going to be a reflection of the professional brand that you are trying to convey. Your career summary is the next part of your resume, and this is really the part that you want to stand out. This is your first impression section and what recruiters are going to see first. So this is where you showcase who you are and what value you add. Now, a career summary is often confused with an objective statement, and they are not the same. Back maybe 10 years ago, an objective statement was kind of like the standard or the norm of what people included on their resume, but that's not really the case anymore. People are kind of moving away from objective statements and gravitating towards career summaries, because an objective statement tells the recruiter what you are looking for, basically what you want out of the job. And while that's important to know, I don't think it's a best practice to lead with that. I think a more effective strategy is leading with who you are and what value you can bring to the company. So an objective statement tells what you want. A career summary tells who you are and what you can do for a company. And that's going to be really important because recruiters are trying to skim resumes really quickly for fit. They're trying to see if candidates are a good fit and if they have some special quality that's going to make them stand out from the rest. The next section is the key skills section, and industry certs can kind of fit into that. And we'll talk more about industry certs in just a second, but the key skills section is the standout skills that you possess that align with the role you are pursuing. So again, thinking back to those 3 to 5 job descriptions that you gathered in your prep phase, and what were some of those key terms that kept coming up. So if you have any of those key skills, you're going to want to include that in this section of your resume. Industry certifications. Now, some industries place a higher value on industry certifications than others. For example, if you are in some sort of IT field, industry certifications are a must. They're an industry standard for securing roles. So you want to make sure that you are going after those industry certifications and you are communicating that on your resume. And you want to list those in the order that they appear on the job description, or you could also list them in the order that you receive them. Now, if you are just general in your career, you're not trying to switch careers, make a career pivot, or you're not a recent grad, your professional experience is going to come next. This is also a really important part of your resume. This is the meat of your resume. This is where you highlight all of the things that you've accomplished and the things that you are most proud of. You are showing recruiters what value you can add based on your previous experiences and previous successes that you've had in other jobs or other settings such as the classroom. So here you don't want to just list out job duties and responsibilities here, because recruiters want to know how you solve problems, what problems you solved, what results you got, not necessarily what you were asked to do. Your education is the next section. So you want to list your education with the most recent degree first and then the oldest degree last. You can also include boot camps because I know boot camps are really popular right now, especially for certain industries such as IT fields and design and things like that. So you can list any boot camps that you've gone to or any special skills courses that you've attended and participated in that are relevant. And then especially for recent grads, the education section is really important. Because if you don't have much work experience, you can use your education section to your advantage. You can include a couple major highlights or achievements, such as maybe you made the dean's list while you were in school, or maybe you graduated with honors, or maybe you were a student athlete, or you were the president or of a club, or whatever. You had certain volunteer experience that you're really proud of. You can showcase this in your education section, or maybe even specific projects that demonstrate your knowledge of the field that you're looking to enter into. And then lastly, your special sections. This is going to be your professional affiliations, volunteer experience, any community involvement that you might have, honors and achievements, anything that is relevant and significant to include. Now, with special sections, it can be a hit or miss if it's not done right. You don't want to just include any and everything under the sun. You want to make sure that it is relevant to the role that you are pursuing in the industry that you are looking to enter into. Also, with special sections, it can work against you if you are not mindful of what you are including. So you want to avoid things that are incredibly controversial or that are going to cause someone to prejudge you, because when someone is looking at your resume, they have no idea who you are most of the time. And so this is your first impression, and you don't want someone to prejudge you based off of something that you included in your special sections when you could have just left it off. Any questions before we move on? Tiffany, is there anything in the chat that I need to?
Nope, we're doing good.
Okay. All right, so some more just quick tips, and these are more just do's and don'ts. And in this part, I want to talk about applicant tracking systems a little bit, and we'll get to that. Because that really matters in terms of how you format your resume. So a do for your resume is always be clear and professional. You want to make sure that the tone of your resume is one that is professional, and you want to make sure that you are articulating your experience the best way that you can. And this goes back to the prep stage. Because when you identify what you bring to the table, what skills you have, it is easier to write about that as you sit down to actually format your resume. You want to avoid including poor spelling and grammar. One thing I'll say about applicant tracking systems, so applicant tracking systems are softwares that companies use to scan resumes. So this is maybe something in the last 5 or so years that has become really popular, 5 to 10 years that has become really popular, companies using applicant tracking software to scan resumes, because companies receive so many resumes for different positions. It can be hard for recruiters and hiring managers to sift through all of that. So they use an applicant tracking software, or ATS, to sift through the resumes before they even make it to a human eye. So with that in mind, you have to format your resume to get past that applicant tracking system so you can actually get your resume in the hands of a recruiter or a hiring manager, and they can actually then see what skills you're bringing to the table and what experience you're bringing to the table. So we have to format our resume in that way so that it's readable, so that the applicant tracking system can find the information that it's searching for. And a lot of times what applicant tracking systems do, a human programs the system to look for specific keywords, to look for specific terms, specific markers, and it's not a secret. Those things are often included in the job description, so you know what the tracking system is going to be looking for. At least you have some general idea, and so that's why it's important to look through the job descriptions, find key terms and skills that align with your skills that you bring to the table, and then include those things in your resume. Now, you don't want to go crazy and just include term after term after term, but you want to make sure that you are including some form of those keywords in ways that are relevant to what you're bringing to the table. Sorry. The next do is establish a clear hierarchy and flow. When you have your resume laid out in a clear flow, it is also a lot easier for applicant tracking systems to scan your resume for the information that it is looking for. And you want to make sure you're including the most important information at the top of your resume, because when the resume actually does get past the applicant tracking system in front of a human reader or a human viewer, they are going to be looking at that resume very, very quickly. And so they need to see what is most important at the very top of the resume. Keep margins no larger than 1 inch. You just don't want it to be too crammed and too pushed up against the edges of the page. It makes it hard to read. Be mindful of length. I always advise students no more than 2 pages, maybe 3 if you are a seasoned professional and you have some experience that you feel that's relevant to the job that you are pursuing, that's going to help you. But especially if you are a new professional, no more than 2 pages. And really, if you haven't had that much work experience, you really only need 1 page to articulate your skills and your experience. Don't use personal pronouns like me, I, we. You really are writing in bullet statements, so no need to use personal pronouns or complete sentences. And then again, use bullet points. It makes the resume easier to read as opposed to long paragraphs. And you don't want to include tables, images, charts, or graphs. So all of those things really make your resume look nice, but it can be hard for the applicant tracking system to read any tables, images, charts, or graphs. It just can't read that stuff. Now, if you are in a career like design, graphic design, web design, and these industries where these beautifully laid out and extremely creative resumes are valued, I would say to create one version of your resume that's just a generic, simple, and plain resume for the applicant tracking system to read, just in case that's what the company is using to scan resumes. And then you can create another version that is more of that creative layout that you would want to showcase if you were going for an in-person interview. Okay, so let's talk about the career summary part of your resume. So again, this is your first impression. It's probably the most important part of your resume because it's the first thing that recruiters or hiring managers see, and it sets the tone for the remainder of your resume. And so it's really important for this part of your resume for you to be concise and clear and make it easy for recruiters or hiring managers to connect the dots. Because again, when they're scanning your resume, they're looking for fit. They're looking to see, does this person meet the basic qualifications of the job? And is there something special or unique about this person that makes them stand out from the rest? And on average, they do that skim really quickly. I read in an article, I think from Indeed, that recruiters spend about 7 seconds, as little as 7 seconds, skimming a resume, and they know whether or not this is a yes or a no. So we have to pack this career summary with a punch. So this is kind of 2 different ways to lay out a career summary. You see on the left, this is more of a bulleted version, and on the right, it's more of like paragraph format, short, quick sentences. These aren't complete sentences in any way. They're kind of like bulleted sentences, but it looks like a paragraph. So let's just talk about this one on the left first. So you see under the contact information, you see that this person has student support coach, program coordinator, or diversity specialist. So these are not particular jobs that the person is necessarily going for. These are job titles that the person has held in the past. So let's say that Sarah Parker is going for a job in student affairs or higher education, which is the field that Tiffany and I are in. And so a lot of times you'll see roles like program coordinator or career coach or student support coach or diversity specialist, something like that. And so Sarah Parker has included 3 job descriptions that she has had in the past. And we're going to talk about what to do if you don't have any job descriptions to include because you are new to the field, or maybe you are making a career pivot. One thing I will say about these job titles is sometimes we get in these roles at these companies that have these like job title names that they don't make sense outside of the company. So for example, when I was completing my master's degree, I had a job title and it was head residential camp counselor. And what does that mean? Nobody knows. Well, essentially what I did in that job was I coordinated summer camps for high school students. I coordinated residential summer camps for high school students. So I was a program coordinator. And so instead of me listing here head residential camp counselor, because nobody knows what that means, I would just list program coordinator or something like that. It's okay to change the titles to something that's more generic so that when recruiters are scanning your resume, they see that you have the skills or you have experiences that align what they're looking for. Now, you certainly don't want to lie. If it's not in line at all, then you simply just wouldn't want to put that on your resume because you're going to have to answer for everything that you put on your resume when you go in for an interview. You're going to need to be able to speak about it. But in my case, I did coordinate programs, but head residential camp counselor is not something that many people are going to know what that is if they look at my resume and see it. So it's okay to sometimes tweak the titles a little bit so that they're a little bit more intuitive, and they kind of demonstrate more of what you did in that role. Okay, let's see. And then over here on the right, Lamar Johnson is a recent grad, so he's looking to get into IT. He hasn't had much work experience, so instead of putting job titles, he lists skills that he has. So technical writing, app development, cloud technologies. This is another way to get at some of your experience and skills. If you don't necessarily have work experience, you can pull out some of those key skills that you have that are also in the job titles and include them in your career summary. The next part of your career summary is kind of an overview or a snapshot of what you're bringing to the table. This can be bulleted, it can be more in paragraph form. It's totally up to you, but this is kind of like the meat part of your career summary, and it's probably the most important. And so the way that you format this is 4 or 5 sentences is plenty. And you only need 4 or 5 sentences to really say what you want to say. Let that first sentence be your elevator pitch. It tells who you are and your specialty area. So if you look at Sarah Parker, it tells exactly what she does. She's a transformative and originative program coordinator. It tells how many years of experience she has, with 4 years of experience managing high impact events and guiding holistic student development through superior customer service, harmonious collaboration, and focused communication. So again, it's an overview, her elevator pitch. If she was telling somebody about what she does and how she does it, this one sentence captures that. Same thing over here with Lamar. Even though he does not have experience, it talks about that he is a cloud computing graduate with experience creating, formatting, and editing written technical content to improve troubleshooting protocol for cloud technologies and IT infrastructure functions. So it's the same thing. It tells what he does and how he does it. Sentences 2 through 3 or 2 through 4, depending on however many sentences you choose to have. These are specific strengths or experiences that align with your target employer. So again, refer back to those job descriptions that you studied in your prep phase and pull out what you think are the most important skills and experiences to highlight. And when writing these statements, it's even more effective if you can provide evidence to back it up. So if you can quantify it in some way. And then the last bullet point or the last sentence is really wrapping up everything and making it clear how your experience aligns with the role that you are pursuing. If you need it, you might not need a last sentence. You may have said all you wanted to say, but if you need it, that's what you would do in that last sentence. Any questions about the career summary portion? And if you have questions, just type them in the chat and we can get to them.
There are no questions in the chat right now.
Okay. And then the next part of your resume is key skills. Now, ideally, you want the recruiter to get to these first two sections, the career summary and the key skills, because at that point, they will have already decided, okay, this person has what we're looking for or they don't. And we're going to keep reading or we're not. So the key skills section is just where you lay out some of those skills that you have that will be advantageous to you in your next job. Again, this is where your prep work will come in handy because you can pull out what skills frequently come up in those job descriptions that you know you possess and include them here in this section. Now, again, you want to be truthful. You don't want to be like Big Bird over here when you lie on a resume, but you still get the job and then you look out of place. How you choose to format this section is up to you. You can do bulleted if you would like. It can be in column format. It's up. This is a personal preference. And so these are just some examples of what this could look like, of what an education section could look like, of what a key skills section could look like, of what an industry certification section could look like on your resume. Again, with education, you want to always include your most recent degree first. And this is for recent grads. You can include any relevant coursework, any extracurricular activities that you have that are really going to make you stand out. Key skills and certs, including the accrediting body and the year that you obtain the certs. And one thing to note with certifications in education, if you have a degree that's in process or a certification that's in process, let's say you're studying to get your Security Plus certification, you can put an expected by date. Same thing with your education. You can put an expected by date because the degree or the certification is not complete yet. Excuse me. So the next part of your resume is your experience, your professional experience. Again, what you title this section is a personal preference, work experience, relevant experience, whatever you choose. This is often written in reverse chronological order with your most recent accomplishments, your most recent positions held appearing first. And again, consult your prep work that you did so you can pick and choose what to highlight, because this is not a list of your job duties or what you were asked or expected to do. This is where you really shine and you sell yourself and influence the recruiter to call you for an interview. This is getting to that so what quality of what makes you special. So you start with the company, the location of the company, and the dates that you worked at the company. And then you give the title. So in this case, this person was an event coordinator. This might be Tiffany because she loves to do events. And then this next part is just kind of a brief one sentence about that role. It's kind of an overview. that you can include about the kind of what your responsibilities, what you were asked to do in that role. So this person seamlessly planned, designed, and directed the execution of corporate, social, and private events for prestigious clients ranging in size from 12 to 500. So this is very brief, very short, but it gives an overview of that role, because sometimes the titles are not intuitive and people don't know what they mean. And then up under that, this person gives their key accomplishments. So this is, again, getting back to this, so what makes you special? What impact did you have at this company? And your key accomplishments are really 2 to 4 bullet points of what you are most proud of and what you think will be most beneficial to share for your target audience. So when you are writing your key accomplishments, a good formula to follow to help make sure that you are saying all that you want to say is the XYZ formula. X plus Y equals Z. So what was the problem? What was the action? And then what was the result? And the problem and the action can really be switched around. You can include the action first that you use to solve a problem, or vice versa. But this strategy I found in writing resumes and reviewing resumes and advising people on resumes always works when you're trying to write your key accomplishments. What was the problem? What was the action? What was the result? Okay. All right, so thinking about everything that we just talked about, all of the different sections, before we move on, type in the chat which part of your resume needs the most work, you think.
Brittany, while they are typing in the chat, I'm not sure which slide, but there was a question where somebody had asked about the second exam, maybe Lamar's resume, something about no bullet point. I'm not sure if that makes sense, if the question makes sense.
I think they were asking why would, for Lamar, the no bullet points in the career summary example, I think. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, looks like they said yes.
Okay, so with the career summary, again, you can write that to look, it can either be bulleted versions or it can be more of like a paragraph version. This is the only place on your resume where you should be writing a paragraph. That's why. It's just to give you 2 different versions of what that could look like. If you feel more comfortable writing it in bulleted form, your career summary, you can do that. But if you feel more comfortable writing it more in a paragraph style, you can do that. Either way is fine. But again, that's really the only place where you have a little bit of wiggle room to write kind of in that paragraph style format.
And in the chat, the answer to your question, people have written professional experience, for students, work experience,
Okay, so let's talk about.
And I was just going to ask, and somebody asked about, could they see the big bird slide again?
Could they see the big, yes, hold on, let me go back. Sorry, I have these transitions, so it makes it go slow. Can you see it?
Yes, they can see it now.
Okay, cool. Okay, so let's talk about, if I can get my thing to go. Let's talk about what to do if you don't have any experience. And I know this is the case for many students. And what I will say before we even start talking is, like, don't feel bad. Everybody's in this situation if they are a recent grad, or if people who have been working, we've all been there where we don't have any work experience. And so we're like, I don't know what to do. So there are a few things that you can do. First thing is change the name of your work experience section. Don't call it work experience. Call it relevant experience. You can call it selected achievements. Change the name from work experience, because work experience automatically implies that this experience came from some job or role that you were in. So change it to selective achievements, relevant experience, however you want to word it is fine, but I would suggest changing the name. The next thing you can do is think about your class projects, your labs, any volunteer work that you've done, any organizations that you are involved in that maybe have done some sort of projects or anything. Think about those projects, make a list of them, give these projects a name. So if you did a lab in one of your classes, let's say, I guess this is relevant to me. So my background is in STEM. My undergrad degree is in biology. Let's say we did a lab in biology where we were dissecting an animal. Give that lab some sort of name. Include where that project was completed and the dates that you included. So this is no different from formatting the section if you had held a regular job. It's the same concept. Include where the project was completed and the dates. And then write a brief sentence, one sentence is enough, 1 to 2, of what the project was. So what was the lab about? What was that dissecting the animal lab about? What were you trying to learn? Then under that, include 2 to 4 key accomplishment bullet points, talking about your impact and the outcome. So what did you contribute to that lab getting done? If it was a group project, what did you contribute to the group? What was the outcome? Talk about the value that you brought to the group project. And include as many examples of these types of projects, labs, volunteer work that you have or that you can that are relevant. The thing with writing your experience section on your resume, if you don't have experience or if you are pivoting, you're a career switcher, is highlighting what skills are transferable, because some skills you need in every job. You need to be able to communicate. You need to be able to work with others. You need to be organized. You want to highlight through your projects, labs, what have you, that you have these basic skills that you need for any job: communication, critical thinking, whatever the skill may be. And so that is the point of your experience section, is to show that through this project, I have this skill. So if you don't have any experience, really pull on your academic coursework and the projects and labs that you have completed in those classes. Someone asked if we'll share the PowerPoint. Yes, we will. If you have any questions about that, go ahead and type them in the chat. I'm going to finish up and then I'll come back and answer. So quickly, before we wrap up, I just want to give you all some resources that you can use to help you as you write your resume. JobScan is a website that you can search for jobs. They have blog portions. You can get, you can read articles on different topics. Career Connections is for Nova students, is Nova specific, or Nova alumni. And I would really encourage all of our Nova students on our session today to get on Career Connections, because they have resources on how to write resumes and how to do mock interviews and even job postings up there, as well as events. The others are just blog postings or guides that you can use. The last one, the IT Career Ready blog, is a blog that we have in the IT division. I don't know if it will take me to this, but on this page, can you all see this? I don't even know. On this page, this is where we will be posting any IT events, as well as systemic events or events that we do in collaboration with systemic, but also different resources. So if you can go to the different categories, you can read different articles. So for instance, there's an article, 3 resume hacks that make you more competitive. And this is where we will be posting any, let's see, I don't think you can see this.
Yeah, it's not showing. Yep,
Okay.
I know it is.
Can you see it now?
Yes, resume hacks that make you more competitive.
Yes, so if you visit the IT career blog, we will be posting different blogs on different topics related to career readiness, as well as any events that we will be doing. So just, you can subscribe to the blog if you subscribe over here, and you can get updated of when we post new things. Okay. All right. Now, can you see my PowerPoint screen again?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so just some key takeaways. Keep your resume concise, clear, and professional. Remember, 2 pages max, if you can. Remember, this is a marketing document. You are trying to sell yourself, sell your biggest accomplishments, because you want recruiters to call you for a phone screen or an interview. Use keywords and keep applicant tracking systems in mind when formatting. So remember, you want to make it easy for the applicant tracking system to read and find what it is looking for. Any experience, whether that's paid or unpaid, is experience. So if you are a new grad, you don't have any work experience, talk about your classroom experience, your projects that you did in your class, your volunteer experience, your leadership at school, any clubs or organizations that you're involved in. And then identify what your so what is. Identify what makes you special and show it in your resume. You want to be able to articulate that in your resume. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. If anyone has questions, we will take questions now in the chat. Can't see.
As of right now, we don't have any questions in the chat, Brittany.
Okay.
Brittany, could I ask a question that I know it wasn't something that we talked about doing, as much today, but with the cover letters, would you recommend that, people create like a different cover letter for each job that they're applying for and always submit that with a resume?
I would always submit a cover letter with a resume, especially if they advise you to. I know with a lot of jobs, it is like an option. It's an optional thing. But if the option is there, I would always say submit a cover letter. As far as customizing the cover letter for the specific role that you're applying for, you should definitely customize your cover letter for the role that you're applying for. Now, I know that can be a lot of work. So one thing that has helped me is to kind of have like a template that I follow or a formula that I follow so that I can just kind of plug in the information that I want to say depending on the role that I'm applying for. But it always stands out to recruiters when things are customized for the particular role that you're applying for or you're going after, because it makes recruiters know that you have put in some sort of effort, and that you are paying attention to detail, that you've done your research on the company. Is it okay to write job skills on the resume that looks similar to the job description? Absolutely. So a part of going back to that preparation phase before you even start writing your resume is looking at the job description and highlighting those skills that they are looking for the particular role, and seeing how your skills align with what they're asking for. And if you have those skills, you should include them on your resume. So if the job description is asking for a written communication and you know that you have strong written communication skills, put that under your key skills section.
So there's a question, Brittany, somebody's asking about appointments to have like resumes reviewed.
So if you go to the IET career blog, which the link will be in the PowerPoint that we share after this, you can go to the We're Here to Help page and you can request an appointment to have your resume reviewed. Now, I will say I'm the only the career coach for the IET division, and so I'm just one person. So I'll do my best to provide feedback, but it may take a while. So I'm just prefacing with that. But yes, you can submit a request using that form on the blog.
And that would be specific for like IET majors, right, Brittany? What if they are a different type of major? What would you recommend that they do?
Yes. So if you are a different major outside of IT, I would suggest contacting the career counselors on your campus. And so if you go to the Nova Career Services page, I'm going to see if I can. Well, what I'll do is we can include the link to the career services page in the email that we send after this with the presentation, and ask if someone from career services can review your resume for you.
How about after applying, is there a general rule regarding like follow-up, timing, or a method?
Yes. So following up after applying, I would say give it 7 business days. That's a full week. If you don't hear anything, you can send a quick email just saying that you're following up. I think that's appropriate.
And this isn't a question in the chat, Brittany, but at what point do you stop following up, or how can somebody maybe follow up to get the answer that they need or the answer that they're looking for? Or at what point do they just say, hey, maybe I didn't get this job, or anything like that?
That's a tough question to answer because I think, especially now, more so in COVID with everything, it's just been a lot of change. And so people are moving a lot slower in terms of getting folks in on interviews and phone screens and whatnot. And it really depends on the industry that you're in for that. But I would say if you followed up twice, maybe 3 times and nothing, then me personally, I would move on. But I know some people, they continue to follow up, and there's nothing wrong with that either. You don't want to pester people. But if you followed up 2 or 3 times and you've not heard anything, then I would personally move on. And I don't know if Tiffany, you have something that you would want to chime in on that and add. I don't know if you've had any experience with that or not.
I guess the one piece of advice I would, add, I mean, exactly what you said, you kind of have to sort of decide like at what point, but I also think sometimes it's about what information are you trying to gather. I think if you just ask the question, hi, I just wanted to find out where I am in the process, or, you're in the process, they can answer that kind of answer. Hey, I just wanted to see if you received my resume. Yes or no. I mean, that's even if they have the ability to respond. So I think when there is an opportunity to, maybe have that engagement, maybe asking a question, or, if you're calling or on the email of, I just wanted to find out, where I am in the process and if there's any additional information that I need to provide. I mean, sometimes that can show initiative, but at the same time, like you said, you don't want to be overbearing or be that person that continues to ask and ask and ask. But then we also know stories of people who say, I asked 10 times and that 11th time they said yes. So it's all going to be, sort of relative. So, I mean, we can't really probably give that general answer like you mentioned, but, you have to kind of know a little bit about the organization and their, ability, and maybe the number of applicants or the system that they're using may or may not allow you to get a response back.
Right. Absolutely. I agree with that. It's a lot about how you say what you say and being specific and what you're looking for. And that's with anything, that you're going after, whether you're asking someone to do an informational interview, you have to know what is the goal before I send this email to someone.
So I had a question, Brittany. Since everything is like all virtual now at this point, what would be your advice with doing virtual interviews or through the phone interviews?
What do you mean in terms of like how to have a successful virtual interview or something else?
Yeah, how would you have a successful phone interview or virtual? Because there are some people who are, for instance, I'm more face-to-face type of person. Most of them I can, go through it. However, on the phone, it can be a little different. And with the whole COVID thing, a lot of companies have shifted it to virtual. So how can students how can we, as everyone, as students, as workers, improve our interview through virtual?
That's a really good question, because with phone interviews and even virtual, like just with technology, body language gets lost, and I think that's the piece that we need in in-person interviews. That's what we kind of rely on to kind of get a feel of what people are thinking, not thinking, but how the interview is going, how it's moving forward. And one thing I will say, a couple of things. So with phone interviews and virtual interviews, because you aren't face to face, you have the ability to make the environment comfortable for you. So I always suggest, and this is even for in-person interviews, having a sheet of paper to take notes, because when someone asks you a question, you can jot down quickly what that question is. So when you are formulating your response, you can make sure that you are hitting all of the parts of the question. And that's totally fine. People do that all the time. They take notes in an interview, as long as you let the interviewer or the recruiter know up front, hey, I'm going to be taking notes during our call or during our virtual interview. It's fine. So having a sheet of paper in front of you to jot down questions so you can better form your responses. The second thing is, again, making your environment comfortable to you. So you want to eliminate as many distractions as possible. And I know that's hard because we're all at home. Some of us have kids or small siblings. I have kids in my house and they're loud. So you have to find a place where you can eliminate distractions, even if it's just for that 45, 30 minutes, whatever. Whether that's in your kitchen or your bedroom, find a place where you can eliminate distractions, and also where it can be professional. You want your background, because people are going to be seeing in your house. You want it to look professional. So you don't want to have like your anime posters and things in the background. You want your setting to be professional. And then the last thing I would say is prepare prior to. So think about your experience, think about your skills, jot down maybe 3 experiences that you have that you want to talk about in your phone screen or your virtual interview. Think about key skills that you bring to the table and jot those down as well. So when they ask you a question, you have something to draw back on. And again, a phone screen, they can't see you, so they don't know what you're looking at. You don't want to sound rehearsed, but it can guide you as you are trying to form your responses. So those are just 3 really quick things that I think that you can do to be more successful in a phone screen or virtual interview. And actually, on that blog that I mentioned, on the IT blog, I did an interview with someone from Amazon Web Services on virtual interviewing and how students can be successful. And so I'll be releasing that content and some of her feedback this week on the blog by the end of this week. So you can go there and read that if you want more advice on how to be successful.
So I don't think we have any more questions from the chat, Brittany.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today on this session. It was a pleasure.